I ultimately slammed my pregnant sister-in-law's face directly into her own birthday cake. And it all started with an apology that I was foolish enough to believe. After a massive fallout where my mom berated my sister-in-law, Vanessa, and my brother, David, yelled at my husband and me, I took the advice I was given online. I sent them a long, rambling text message about how disgusted we were with their behavior and that we'd be going low contact for the foreseeable future. That was the day after my brother, David, had packed his bags and left our house in a fury. They left me on read, and I thought that was the end of it. But a few days ago, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. My first instinct was to ignore it, but my curiosity was too strong. When I answered, she tried to make some awkward small talk, but she must have sensed I wasn't in the mood. She cut to the chase, apologizing for her behavior and blaming it on her pregnancy hormones. We ended up having a long conversation, and by the end, I genuinely felt like we could move past everything and repair our relationship. She mentioned that her birthday dinner was no longer at a restaurant, likely because the hotel stay after the last fight had been expensive, and would be at their house instead. She said she would still love for my family to come. I told her I'd talk to my husband, Mark, and let her know. Shortly after, David also texted, apologizing and explaining he was just trying to protect his wife. Mark felt it was too soon to start mending things, but he left the final decision to me. Because Vanessa had never acted this way before and seemed genuinely ashamed, I chose to believe her apology. My acceptance was the first step toward healing our family. I had no idea I was about to walk into a meticulously prepared trap. My sister, Sophia, and my parents also received apologies and invitations. However, Sophia's kids wanted to have a sleepover with my kids instead of going to the dinner, so we agreed they could have one at my house. For babysitting, I rely on my next-door neighbors, a pair of sweet and responsible 16-year-old twins. They usually handle my 4 kids together on date nights, with Sophia's 2 kids added to the mix. I asked their single mom if she'd be willing to join the girls, and she happily agreed. So, I called Vanessa and told her that Mark and I were coming. When we arrived at their house, Vanessa greeted us at the door. We handed her a gift and went inside, but she seemed confused that our kids weren't with us. I simply reminded her that it was just us adults for the evening. The same thing happened when Sophia and her husband arrived moments later. The dinner was painfully awkward. The conversation was stilted, no matter how hard we tried to lighten the mood, but I told myself it was still a step in the right direction. Vanessa brought up the kids again, asking why they weren't there and mentioning she had made special food just for them. I felt a pang of guilt, thinking I should have been clearer when I RSVP'd, so I apologized and thanked her for the thought. My sister Sophia chimed in, explaining that our kids were having a sleepover and how excited she was for Vanessa's baby boy to join them when he was older. Vanessa looked at Sophia with a smile and said, "Yeah, I'm sure he'll be best friends with his cousins," referring to my kids, and his step-cousins, referring to Sophia's. The comment hung in the air. We don't use step labels with the kids, and I could see the hurt on my sister's face. This revealed Vanessa's greatest flaw, a deep-seated cruelty masked by feigned apologies. It was a poison she couldn't stop herself from injecting into any moment of peace, a trait that would ultimately seal her fate within this family. My brother nudged her, giving her a look that clearly said, "What are you doing?" A few minutes later, Vanessa circled back again, asking who was watching all the children since all 4 parents were at her dinner. I explained that my neighbor and her 2 teenage daughters were babysitting. She laughed at this. She joked about how incompetent the girls and their mom must be to need all 3 of them just to wrangle the kids. Before I could even respond, my own mother stepped in. With one of her placid smiles, she told Vanessa it was so kind of her to offer her own competence to watch the kids next time. That shut Vanessa up immediately. The rest of the dinner passed in an even more awkward silence. After we cleared the table, I excused myself to the bathroom. When I came out, I was met by the sight of my husband, Mark, holding my bag and urgently trying to usher me out the front door. He looked absolutely furious, and I was completely confused. I resisted, insisting we should at least say a quick goodbye, but he tried to literally carry me out of the house, and I knew something was terribly wrong. This was the final turning point. Had I listened to my husband and left, I might have avoided the confrontation, but I would have been left with the gnawing horror of what could have happened. My decision to dart back into that dining room, while born of confusion, was the act that would finally bring everything into the light. I darted past him and back toward the dining room, and then I saw it. The dessert table Vanessa had just set up consisted of peanut butter cake pops, peanut butter pie, peanut butter cookies, and peanut butter brownies. To top it all off, my brother David was bringing in a massive peanut butter birthday cake, sniffing at it with a horrified expression on his face. As one person later commented online, "There is no way she is gonna do it, right? There is no way she would purposefully serve nuts, right?" But she had. She either wanted harm to befall my child or had learned absolutely nothing from last time. Vanessa gave me a huge, triumphant smile and announced loudly to the entire room, "I thought I should at least get to have my cravings on my birthday. Get your fill before she throws these out too." All I could think about was that she had expected my children to be there. She had planned this. I had already felt immense guilt for allowing peanuts into our house the last time, and now I realized that if my sister's kids hadn't randomly wanted a sleepover, I would have walked my son directly into danger for a second time. As someone who has a deathly allergy myself once wrote, "People who haven't witnessed anaphylaxis just don't appreciate the true danger." I lost my mind. In a flash of pure rage, without a second thought, I grabbed Vanessa's head, forced her face towards my brother who was frozen in shock, and slammed her head straight down into the birthday cake. I held it there as she flailed, shouting that I hoped she choked on her cravings before I finally let go. Her face was a mess of frosting and crumbs. I wanted to go for the pie next, but I knew I'd already embarrassed myself enough. I looked at my brother and told him I was done with both of them, and if they ever tried to contact my family again, I would file for a protective order. Then I let Mark lead me out of the house. My sister Sophia was cackling as she and her husband followed us out the door. My parents stayed behind. As we were leaving, I could hear Vanessa screaming profanities after us, but then I heard my stepdad raise his voice, which immediately silenced her. The man is famously stoic. His frown alone was enough to stop my sister and me in our tracks when we were kids. For him to show that level of anger was a very big deal. I haven't asked my mom what happened after we left. I just can't handle any more heartache from my brother and his actions. Even if David had no idea about the desserts, it happened in his house, under his roof. I am heartbroken that my kids won't know their new cousin and that I'm losing my brother, but I would rather cry over that than cry over my son's life. Slamming her face into the cake doesn't make me an asshole. It makes me a parent who understands that this woman required an extreme measure to get some sense knocked into her. I know I shouldn't have reacted so physically, and it's something I'll be working through with my therapist, along with all the guilt. I'm also looking into family therapy for my children to help them process the sudden absence of an aunt and uncle who were once a close part of their lives. This story is a chilling reminder that not all family members have your best interests at heart, and a parent's first and most important duty is to protect their child, no matter the personal cost. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to cut off a family member to protect your own peace or safety? Let us know in the comments.